A very good afternoon to everyone present here with great pleasure and immense joy. I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to all present here for this online webinar. There's going to be a fabulous webinar on the title of Research Problem on Identification and Formulation, and it is organized by C.V. Raman Research Colloquium and Department of Commerce, SRM IST Vadapalani. முந்தி பிறந்த மொழி முத்தமிழாய் சிறந்த மொழி சங்க தமிழ் பெற்ற மொழி சந்தன தமிழ் தாயை சபை வணங்கும் நேரம் இது. Let's begin this program with தமிழ் தாய் வாழ்த்து. தமிழ் தாய் வாழ்த்து by Trisha.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கீழொழுகும் சீராறும் பதனமென திகழ் பரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கணமும் அதிசிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்கு சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரிதனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலக்கும் இன்பமுல எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை சிறம்பியன்று செயல்மறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
Thank you, Trisha. I may now request our head of the department, Dr. B. Venkatraghavan, Sir, SRM IST Vadapalani, to give welcome address. Please, sir.
A very good afternoon to our esteemed dignitaries and to all the inquisitive minds present here. We, the Department of Commerce and Sir C.V. Raman Research Colloquium, would like to extend a welcome to the webinar on research problem, identification and formulation. On behalf of all the faculties and students present today, I extend my gratitude to the Honorable Resource Person, Dr. T. Mohansundaram, Associate Professor, Department of Management Studies, M.S. Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore, for accepting our invitation to enlighten our students on the most crucial topic of research. Welcome, sir. And I'd like to welcome Dr. K.R. Anantha-Padmanabhan, Dean, College of Science and Humanities, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Vadapalani campus, for providing us the opportunity for conducting this webinar today. I also welcome all the heads of various departments, students, and research scholars across the nation for this webinar. According to the words of Zoroaster, research is formalized curiosity, it's poking and prying with a purpose. Being a researcher requires dedication, hard work, and an unending thirst of knowledge, which is to see what everybody else has been and to think what nobody else has thought. We believe that this webinar would guide you along in your quest for knowledge. Once again, we welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm profusely elated to take an opportunity to introduce our chief guest of the program, the speaker, Dr. T. Mohansundaram, sir, Associate Professor, Department of Management Studies in M.S. Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bengaluru. Welcome, sir. Here now, I request Dr. J. Anita Ruth, Madam, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, SRM IST Vadapalani, to give introduction to our chief guest.
A very warm welcome to today's speaker. I introduce Dr. T. Mohansundaram, Associate Professor, Department of Management Studies, M.S. Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore. Dr. T. Mohansundaram has completed his doctoral degree in management from Anna University, Masters of Business Administration, MBA from Bharatiya University, and he has 17 years of total experience in industries and academics. To his credit, he has published 27 research articles in reputed journals and presented papers in international conferences organized by reputed institutions like IIMS, IITS, and IICS. He is actively involved in research and consultancy work for the government, public, and private institutions. He has received research grants from AICT, AIMS, ICWA, and NHRC. He has organized many FDPs and workshops related to management research. His teaching area includes international finance, financial management, bank management, financial and management accounting, security analysis and portfolio management, and business research methodology. He is also a certified financial education resource person of the Securities of Exchange Board of India, SEBI, and, and also he has received various national level awards like Best Young Research Award in the year 2018 from the Association of Indian Managements of Schools, AIMS, and Best Young Faculty Award from Nehru Group of Institutions, Coimbatore. With that, I welcome you, sir, for this today's session. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to request our speaker, our chief guest, Dr. T. Mohanasundaram, sir, to address the gathering.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. So thank you, and thank you very much for a wonderful inaugural and also the nice introduction, reading out my profile. And it's my privilege indeed. Indeed, it's my privilege to be part of this particular webinar series. And I need to thank the management of SRM Institute of Science and Technology, the College of Science Humanities, particularly, and Dr. Venkatraman sir, Venkatragavan, and all the faculty members and the students, research scholars who are part of this particular webinar. So today, this is just a short session on the research problem. Okay, so this is the first session. In fact, this is the first step in the research process. So directly, let me get into the topic of today. Let us focus on what is a research problem and how to confine a research problem, because very broad research problem may create a lot of difficulties when we start actually doing the research. So it is important to confine ourselves. At the same time, what are the nuances we have to take care while doing the research is what all about we are going to discuss in today's program or the webinar. So I request the administration team to enable me to share the PowerPoint.
Yes, sir. It has been done.
Yeah. And I believe my screen is visible to everyone.
It's visible, sir.
Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. So today, as we know that today's the topic is research problem, particularly how to identify the research problem and formulate the research problem. Because whenever we start doing a research, since many of the students are present here, even for them, the final project, they have to choose a topic on which they have to do a project work, right? So how to identify a problem, particularly in science and humanities, what kind of problem, research problem we can take, how to identify it. And once we identify the problem, it is important to dissect into a small components. And we need to formulate that research problem so that the problem can be, the theoretical problem can be converted into a statistical or a mathematical formulation. Thereby, we can able to estimate and also the forecast the result. So in the research process, if you see, the first and foremost important step is all about the problem identification. So before getting into the research problem, first let us have a clarity on what actually is a research and what is not a research. So before knowing what is research, we believe so many things as a research, but actually they are not a research. So let us have a clarity on what are all not a research. Okay. So research definitely is not just a mere gathering of facts or information. No, just a collection or a collation of a data cannot be termed as a research. Please be aware of this, because many of the times, particularly in the undergraduate or a postgraduate level, when we do a project work, okay, what generally the student community will do is they feel that by doing the research, all they have to do is they collect the information and they have to put it in the project and interpret the result. No, just collecting information is not a research, just it is a collage or a collection, mere a collection of data, that's all. So moving facts from one situation to another situation is also not a research. Say, for example, I'll give you one practical example. Many studies are available on customer perception, satisfaction, etc. Say for a particular product. So somebody might have done it in Chennai. The same title will be used somewhere in Coimbatore, okay, or in the other parts of the country. So doing that, we cannot say that as a full-fledged research. Okay, all what we are doing is we are trying to move the concepts and the facts from which earlier has already existing in the one particular geographical area. Okay, and we are moving to the next area. Okay, so definitely that is also not a research. And very commonly, the word research is loosely used. In fact, people are very generous. They are taking it granted in using the word research. Because whenever you talk about, say, for example, some product is introduced in the market, what they do, we did an intensive research based on which the product has been levied or product has been introduced in the market. Or sometimes you may also, at times, very commonly, we has a tendency to tell that if some question is asked on us, what commonly we'll answer it. Okay, let me have a look on it. I'll do a bit of research and come back to you. Okay. So the word research is very loosely used across the people and more importantly in the academic community. So this is also not correct because research is something different. It is not just an in-depth investigation. Research is something which is done systematically. Okay. So any in-depth study cannot be termed as a research. And again, any repetition or just a methodology. Okay. Because nowadays, if you see, with a lot of emergence of advanced statistical tools, many people, particularly the young researchers, they mainly focus on the application area. They believe that learning a particular statistical tool is more than adequate to do a research. Okay. Statistical tool or just a methodology cannot be termed as a research. Okay. And it is very important, we have to choose a very new novel topic in research. Because there are areas in which lot of research, thousands of research has been already done. Okay, so it is not worth to do a study or project or a research by writing a thesis or dissertation on the same topic. It is a total waste of time. Okay, so it is important to know there should be a research gap, and we have to identify either a new topic itself or in the existing topic. Our contribution should be something towards the advancement of the existing topic. Okay, that is where actually the research lies. So, in a broader sense, very commonly, how can we define a research? Because there are, to be very frank, okay, there are thousands of research definitions are available. So many researchers has come up with their own definition, and these research definitions has evolved over a period of time. And what we think or what we thought as a research before 100 years and what is a research today, there is a huge significant difference. Okay, so in such a cases, what is research? So in put it in a layman terms, okay, I never ever go for any kind of a complicated things. Let me put it in a straight and simple things. Research is all about, okay, in a broader sense, it is all about systematic gathering, analyzing and interpreting the data, information or the facts towards the new or advancement, towards the new or advancement of knowledge. Then only those things is called as a research. So the key important wordings you have to note in this particular definition is a systematic gathering. It is not just like that you can gather a data. Today, particularly because of COVID, online classes, all these things are going. Similarly, a lot of people started doing the project work, research work through designing a questionnaire in a Google form and sending to the respondents. And as a researcher, you don't know who is the respondent, and the respondent, whether he has a sufficient knowledge on that particular topic, whether the respondent is the target person from whom we have to collect the data. That idea also may not be available with the researcher. So that is actually, that may leads to a wrong interpretation. the entire result of the research may not be reliable at all in such a scenario. Okay, so it needs to be done very systematically, and you need to define clearly what is the population, okay, and what is the sample size you are going to take, okay, and what more important is a research problem. Because before getting into that, just I want you all to have a look on this particular picture. So there are 8 steps. These are the broadest steps available in the research process. Okay, when you take a research process, when I say it, it is all about A to Z, okay, of the research, where you begin and where you end. In between, what are the different stages involved? Okay, so if you see, the first and the foremost, the step in the research process is the identification of a research problem or a subject area. Okay, so you have to first identify, because there are so many problems are available, more importantly in social science. Whenever you turn your head, you will find n number of problems, right? The problems, there is no constraints or no scarcity for a problem. The problems are always there. Okay, so but what problem we have to take over for our study? That is very, very important. Okay, once we identify it, then we have to define the problem clearly, so that whoever reads your thesis or a dissertation clearly understand what is the actual problem you are dealing with, from what perspective you are addressing that particular problem, trying to address that problem. Okay, so in the lens of what you are looking into that problem, that is very, very important. Okay, because the same problem can be looked in from different perspectives. Okay, so the perspective on which the problem has been taken needs to be clearly communicated to the target audience. Third step, once we define the problem, research problem, the next step is we have to do an extensive literature review. When I say an extensive literature review, it is important to look into what are the existing research papers published in that particular area of your research. Okay, say for example, I am taking a research topic of domestic violence. Okay, domestic violence. So it is very common in India, and many households are suffering from this particular domestic violence. Okay, so when I take this domestic violence, there are so n number of researches already done on that particular topic. Okay, so it is important for us to have a bigger understanding on that domestic violence. For that, we have to thoroughly go through the existing literature on the topic, so that we can identify. One thing is, we'll get significant knowledge on the problem. Okay, after gaining a knowledge, we also come to know what is the research gap existing. Okay, so these are all the problems. These are all the areas in which the research has been already done, and where there is a gap. Okay, which are the areas in the domestic violence is not covered. You will come to know about that. That is where the research gap exists. Okay, for any researcher, they have to consider the research gap, and they try to add some new insights into those research gap. Okay, they have to come out with some sort of a solution which is not existing in the previous studies. Okay, then the fourth one is selection of research design and data collection techniques. Okay, how we are going to conduct this research. Okay, how we are going to conduct our study. There are n number of research designs are available. It can be an empirical study, it can be an analytical study, or it can be a descriptive study. So many research design, or particularly in engineering, experimental studies are there. Okay, so there are numerous ways in which we can conduct this study, but which will be the more appropriate research design for the chosen research problem. Okay, that because choosing an appropriate or precise research design is equally important, and it is a paramount significance, no doubt in that. Collection of data techniques. Okay, data collection techniques. How we are going to collect the data? Is it through an observation method, or is it through a survey method, or there may be an expert panel committee member? Okay, Delphi method. So many methods on which we can collect the data. Once we decide on that, then we really get into the field. That's where actually we'll collect the data. Okay, that is the step 5. And in data collection process, again, there are numerous things are there, but at this particular webinar, just I confine with the research steps. Okay. Fourth one, once we collect the data, we process, analyze, and interpret the result. We try to conclude we have some findings and we derive a conclusion, then we publish those results. These are the different research processes. Why I am telling all these research processes, being an young researcher or a student, you should have a clarity, because the research process should be done systematically. You cannot skip any of these steps. And it needs to, one, if you follow the rules, the regulations, or whatever the policies which are already available, particularly in this case, you have to simply follow the research process. If you follow the research process systematically, you won't get caught in the middle. In the sense, you won't end up in an unpleasant situation, because I know that many of my scholars, many of my students, who they will choose a topic and they will start the research. They try to collect the questionnaire, but later on they find that there is nothing new to get arrived at. Okay, there is nothing new. There is no novelty, and sometimes with the available data, they can't even apply the certain advanced statistical tools to interpret the results. Okay, so in such a cases, they got caught in the middle. That means they can't revert back now. They can't proceed also. They can't proceed because they choose the wrong research problem, or the problem which is already over researched, or the data what they collected is not sufficient or inadequate to proceed further. Okay, so in order to avoid such an unpleasant situation, the first and foremost thing is we need to put a lot of effort at the beginning. When I say at the beginning, why identifying the research problem? We need to spend considerable time in choosing the topic, the research problem, the area in which we are going to carry out the research. The reason is, the area which we are going to choose, first of all, we should like that area. Okay, we should have an interest to do that particular, to do the research on that area. Okay, without our interest, most of the times what will happen, many of the scholars and students, they will approach the faculty members. Sir, in which subject or in which topic shall I do the study? Definitely, it is not a topic given by others to you. You have to choose. It is purely based upon your area of interest. In which area of social science, for example, social science students are here and the researchers are there, then which area of social science is really making a lot of interest for you, that you have to identify. Okay, in that area, then you have to further explore yourself so that you can arrive a precise topic later on. If you choose a wrong topic, okay, then there won't be adequate scope to proceed further. In such a case, by the time you already spend 1 year or 2 years in your research journey, then you will come to know that there is no new thing available. I can't proceed further. By the time you already lost 2 years, okay, that should not happen. For that, it is important to focus more on research problem identification. That is what exactly today's topic. Okay, so we are going to discuss more identification. What are all the strategies or steps needs to be used while identifying a problem? Okay, please remember this: a well begun is half done. Okay, so it is important, because most of the research topics or a theme has been told by somebody else and you might have carried out. That is wrong, actually. Okay, so that should not happen. So whenever we do a research, please remember, we have to spend a lot of time in the beginning. Okay, don't take any haphazard decisions. Okay, there is nothing like it ad hoc manner, haphazard manner. If you take a research topic, then no doubt 100% you will face a problem at a later stage. Okay, so instead of spending a lot of time later without getting a desirable result, it is better to spend adequate time in the beginning itself. You be very cautious, very careful, and choose a topic or an area of your interest where you have an adequate resource to carry out that study in the forthcoming days. Okay, so you have to spend a considerable time. Just like that, don't choose a topic. That is what my advice to everyone. Okay, so once you do it, okay, in the research, whenever we do a research, let us all remember there are certain assumptions based on which only the research we are trying to do the research. So what are the assumptions? There are numerous assumptions, but however, here I would like to highlight only 3. Okay, one is, whenever we choose an area in which we are planning to do a research, we always believe there is some order in that process or some pattern, hidden pattern is available. Okay. That means we feel that there is some kind of a relationship exists between the causes and the effect. There is some cause and effect relationship is available. Okay. That's what we believe. So you mean whatever the variables you are studying, one variable is influencing the other variable? Something, some kind of, or sometimes you may believe that both the variables are influencing each other. Okay. If variable A is influencing variable B, that means it is an indication, it is a unilateral direction. Okay. The research goes in a unilateral direction. But however, there is every possibility there may be a bidirectional relationship of the events. Okay. Say because of this, that other one may happen, and the vice versa also is very much true. Say, for example, I want to study about the impact of demonetization of Indian economy. Okay. So here, I believe that there is an order. Because of demonetization, there is an impact on Indian economy. So I understand there is a relationship between the different events or variables which I have chosen. Okay. So whenever we do a research, we always believe there is some order. Because the availability of that order only, we are choosing that particular area for our research. Second step is a parsimony. Okay. Parsimony is an important assumption in a research, because parsimony is all about to make it simple and precise. Okay. Because you want to find and say, for example, let me take the same example, the effect of the impact of demonetization on Indian economy. Okay. But the Indian economy is not only affected by demonetization, it is affected by host of factors, other factors, right? Say, for example, exchange rate, import-export trade, or the GDP growth rate, the industrial progress happening in the country, or how the agriculture sector is performing, how the service sector is growing, how the inflation is, how the unemployment is. There are so many variables which are affecting the economic performance of a country. But in our study, we are not including all those variables, which is highly impractical to include all the variables and then build a research problem and then build a research model. That is not possible at all. If I start doing it, I'll be having a lots and lots of independent variables. And when we have more and more of independent variables, it requires a tremendous action and the energy to collect a lot of data pertaining to it. And our knowledge may be very limited and we may not have an extensive knowledge on all those areas. So research is always about an in-depth knowledge, or it is an intensive study. Please remember, it is a systematically planned intensive study. It is not a something like an extensive where you know what is what. That's what probably maybe we may be studying in our graduation or a post-graduation, where we will know about what is what. But we never look to go in depth more precisely. Okay. So the research is all about taking a small area or a narrow area and taking a deep dive into that particular area. So you are going in depth, you are analyzing that particular fact or the area to the extreme depth. You are trying to explore how much ever is possible in that area. Okay. So when I say a parsimony, you take a very simple and precise problem. Okay. The research, don't take a lot of things in one particular topic, which is highly not possible at all. Okay. It cannot be. The Indian economic growth cannot be studied in a period of 6 months, considering the numerous variables having an impact on the economy. Okay. Or an international study. Being a commerce student, you may think about, okay, if you want to study about the international trade, okay, there are a lot of factors available. Say political factors are there, economic factors are there, country specific factors are there. You cannot do everything in a span of 3 or 6 months, particularly for a student community. Even 3 years, 4 years period for a PhD is not sufficient to collect the data on all these areas and try to get a meaningful inference. So it is important for us to keep our research very simple and precise, exactly to meet the objective. Okay. The third one is all about the generality. Okay. When I say about generality, we can't collect all the data. Okay. The population size may be very, very big. So what we do in our research, okay, we conduct a study on small units, sample units, and we generalize that result to the entire population. Okay, this is also one of the important assumptions when, when we do the research. This is a very valid and important assumption. Okay, so we collect the data from small group and then we infer or we interpret that result to the overall population, to the overall bigger population. Okay, so these are the three important assumptions we will be doing whenever we start the research. So let us get into in depth about the research problem. Okay, that is what today's topic. So whenever we talk about this research problem, okay, what are the steps in identifying and formulating a research problem? Okay, the first one is we have to identify the broader field of subject area of your interest. So what is your area of interest? You identify one area. Say, for example, my area of interest may be a forex market. Okay, foreign exchange. Your area of interest may be on that, in that case, it may be a TQM, it can be an, say, domestic violence, anything, any social science topics. Okay, because I believe that I'm addressing more to the social science students, the researchers. Okay, so it can be any topic, any bigger area. Once you choose the area, then it is important to dissect the broad area into a sub areas. Okay, I will explain you with an example. Okay, I will explain you with an example little later on. But the second step is the entire problem, the research problem cannot be studied in the given time due to inadequacy of a time, inadequacy of a resources, and also inadequacy of a knowledge. Because as a researcher, you cannot gain an expertise in all the area. Okay, so we need to confine ourselves to a smaller area. That is what all about the second step. It is important to dissect the broad area into sub areas. Once you do that, then the next one is we have to select what is the most interesting sub area, because we have collected the bigger problem into small problems. Okay, among the small problems, we have to choose one small problem which is of more interest for us. Okay, then we can start doing a research on that. Once you choose a small area of the bigger research problem, then we have to raise a lot of research questions. Okay, these research questions in future lead to become objectives, research objectives. Okay, so first, to formulate an objective in the small area, you have to ask a lot of research questions. How it is possible? What will happen in future? Okay, where this can happen, and when it is going to happen? Such a kind of a question you have to keep on asking yourself. That leads to get a precise research question on your research problem. Then once you satisfy with the research question, then we have to formulate the objectives and hypotheses. Hypotheses are nothing but the tentative assumptions or a broader belief. Okay, so once you start chosen the research question, obviously the next step is to formulate the hypothesis. Hypothesis formulation is a very important step, because based on which your analysis and interpretation is going to be there. Once we formulate, then obviously we have to assess our objectives and hypotheses, because once we decided these are the objectives and hypotheses, we have to assess ourselves. Okay, whether the objectives what we framed is correct, is relevant, is suitable to the situation. Is it feasible to carry out? Can we able to find out the result for it? Is it practically correct to proceed further? All these things we need to check. And finally, we have to double check all those things. Okay, so these are the different steps involved in formulating a research problem. Okay. So let me first get into that steps, whatever I have told theoretically. Let me get into a demonstration so that you can able to understand the steps involved in the research problem. Okay, in choosing a research problem. So as I told you, I hope the Word document is visible to all the audience, participants.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah, fine. So in that case, we discussed that first step is all about identifying the broader field of study, okay, the broader research area we have to identify. So yes, I told you, let me take the topic, the bigger problem is a domestic violence. So I want to do my research in domestic violence. Okay. But domestic violence, there are so many number of domestic violences and so many instances, so many reasons. So it's a very, very big. I cannot study the entire domestic violence, right? So because of which the second step in the research problem, what we discussed was to dissect the broader research problem into small research areas. Okay, so that is what actually precisely I have done here. If you see here, the domestic violence, this is divided into smaller sub areas. The first sub area is profile of families in which the domestic violence occurs. So domestic violence is not happening to everyone. It is happening to some segment of families. Okay, so what kind of people, what kind of profile the families are having, what is the profile of the family in which the domestic violence is happening, that we need to identify. That itself is one area, collecting the profile, okay, because that can be a very important policy suggestion to the government, so that the government can focus on those families and they can come out with steps to minimize the domestic violence on those families. Second one, the profile of the victims of domestic violence. So whenever the domestic violence happens, who are the main victims of this domestic violence? It can be a married woman, it can be in children, or it can be an elderly person. Okay, so we need to identify that. That is also a bigger research area. That is one area. Okay. Second, profile of perpetrators. That is the person who is causing a harm in the domestic violence. Okay, who is actually creating the domestic violence? That is again another small area. Then fourth one, very important, the reasons. Why the domestic violence first of all happens? Okay. What are the reasons? Okay. There may be numerous reasons, right? It may be because of a dowry system, or it can be because of unreliability of each and every person, or it can be because of the usage of alcohol, or so many things are there. Okay, gender bias, so many things, so many reasons are there which may cause domestic violence. So that is also an interesting topic. Then extent and type of domestic violence. Okay, to what extent domestic violence is going on, and what are the different types of domestic violence. Then impact of domestic violence on family. So far we discussed about the reasons. Now, if a domestic violence happens, how it affects the family. Okay, so how it affects the family, that can be one small area. Then impact of domestic violence, particularly on children. Okay, because they are the one who suffers a lot whenever the domestic violence happens. Okay, so they feel they have been let alone. So in such a cases, it is also an interesting area to study about the impact of domestic violence on children. Then services available to victims of domestic violence. Yes, that is also there. What kind of, say somebody, a woman or a children, got affected by the domestic violence. For them, what kind of help available? What kind of the services available, either from the government or NGO or whatever be it. Okay. That is also an interesting story, because a remedial measures, the resolution to the problem is something very, very important. Okay, that is where the social success relies on. So in order to achieve that social success, it is important to serve them, the victims of the domestic violence. Then effectiveness of services provided to the victims. So many services governments, NGOs are providing, but how far they are actually useful to those victims, that itself is a bigger area of study. Okay. Then extent of domestic violence in community. Okay. It can be a community based. So what I'm trying to say in the second step is the broader area, domestic violence, can be dissected into a small areas, numerous small areas. And whatever is the most interesting small area, you can choose that as your research topic, not the entire domestic. Okay, you can choose that as a research topic. So that is the third step. Select what is most interesting sub area of your research. Then the fourth one, excuse me. Self-led meeting. 1 minute, excuse me, sorry for that. Yeah, sorry for that. Now I'm back. So the next one is select what is the most interesting sub area. That is the next one. Then we have to raise the research question. Okay. So for that, let me get into this particular step. I request the participants please to mute your phone. Yeah, the step one, I have chosen the one of the reason which affects the domestic violence. Okay, that is alcoholism. Okay, so alcoholism, no doubt, it is one of the important reason for a domestic violence. So let me take what kind of impact the alcoholism is having on the family. Okay, so for that, actually, alcoholism is a broader area. So there are so many options are available. Either I can study about the profile of alcoholics, cause of alcoholics, why people are consuming alcohol, then process of becoming an alcoholic, what makes them to become an alcoholic, effects of alcoholism on family, and community attitudes towards the alcoholism, how a particular community treats the people who consume alcohol. Okay, so the effectiveness of treatment model in alcoholism, these are the sub areas. So in these sub areas, I am choosing the fourth one, that is the effect of alcoholism on the family. Okay, so this is my bigger research problem. These are the possible alternatives or sub areas in the bigger research problem. In that, the most interesting research topic I have chosen is the effect of alcoholism on the family. Okay. Then once I identify the research topic, it is important to raise the research questions. Okay, research questions. So what kind of research questions? Research questions are very precise, small and very precise questions which are seeking an answer from my study. Okay, which are intended to find a solution. Okay. So what is the first one? What impact has the alcoholism on marital relation? How far alcohol is influencing the marriage life? Second, what kind of impact it has? Second one, how does it affect the various aspects of children? So how, not only a marriage life, second one is how it affects the children. Because in a family, a father consumes alcohol, what kind of impact it will have on children's life? That is also another important research question. So how you can develop a research question? All you have to do is you have to explore it. You have to go through a literature. Then you will find out what are the possible ways in which this particular topic can be addressed. Okay, that is what actually matters a lot. What are the effects of family finances because of alcohol? Definitely there will be an adverse impact on family finance. So what kind of impacts there are? Okay, that is also another important research question. Once I identify the research question, the same can be converted into a research objective. Okay, so my main objective is to find out the effect of alcoholism on the family. That is the main objective. My sub-objectives or the secondary objectives are to ascertain the impact of alcohol on marital relationship, to determine the ways in which the alcohol affects the children's life. Similarly, to find out the effect of alcohol on the financial situation of the family. These are the three specific objectives I can develop from the research questions. Once I develop the objectives, it is important for us to assess whatever we have done so far is correct or not. How to assess it? First, we need to think about if these are the objectives, what are the work involved to find an answer to these objectives? Okay, so we have to think about the work involved, then what is the time available to do that? Okay, because if a research question is very broad and the area of study is a very broad, then obviously it requires a lot of time. So keeping that as an objective, later you should not find it difficult, because you may be compelled to complete your research in a 6 months or a 1 year time, but that objective what you have started may require a very extensive study which may go up to 2 or 3 years. In such a cases, you will find a problem later. So it is important for us to assess whether this particular objective, for that, can we able to collect the data, analyze and interpret within the given period of time? That is an important question you have to ask on yourself. Then the financial resources at your disposal, because collecting a data, analyzing the data, purchasing a software, it requires a lot of financial resources. So as a student or as an individual researcher, which particularly if you are not getting any kind of a sponsorship for your research, then obviously you have to consider this very, very important. Because extensive collection of data, extensive traveling may required, all these things may take a lot of resources, financial resources. Okay. So when you frame the objective, you also need to think whether it is financially viable for us to conduct this research. Okay. It is financially viable or not, that you have to decide. Finally, you also need to think about your research. Okay. What are the different situations? Okay. You have to think of. So you have to double check on all those things. This is how the steps involved. Okay. If you are confident, if you are really about to go through on all these things very effectively without much problem, then yes, you can proceed further. But without doing this haphazardly, if you choose a problem, okay, later one or the other ways, definitely you will end up in a problem. You will end up in a problem where you may find you can't proceed further because you have made a huge mistake while choosing a problem itself. Now, after choosing the problem, you started collecting a data, considerable time you wasted, considerable financial resources you wasted, but finally you realize, okay, this is what I should not have done. Okay, then it is a waste of time. So for this, that's the reason it is a very important, it is a very primary and prerequisite in a research to do an extensive study on research problem. Okay, the most significant, it is a paramount significance, I would say. Okay, it is a very, very important. Without that, we should not proceed. If we proceed, obviously we will end up in a problem at the later stage. Okay. So, yeah. So that's what we discussed. So in the beginning, obviously, whenever you start a research or a project, you may feel very vague and unstructured thinking will be there. Please remember, it is not only for you. Anybody who takes a new research, okay, they won't have a clarity. That's how it has been designed. If you already have a very clear 100% clarity, okay, this is how I have to do. In the beginning, you will have a lot of confusions. You have to find a solution to each and every problems. Then only you can able to come up to a decision. This is how I have to proceed in my research. If by the time you choose the research problem only, if you have a complete clarity, then believe me, that is not at all a research. That means it has been already done, and that knowledge you are already having. Okay. That cannot be termed as a research. Research is something to discover new, right? So at the time of devising a problem, you have n number of questions, n number of unsolved issues for which you will be trying to find an answer. Okay, so that vagueness definitely will be there. You will get a more precise research questions and objective only after going through numerous refinements on your research problem. Okay, so you have to go with that. And obviously, there are many uncertain problems which you will be addressing. Okay, a lot of uncertainty will be there. Research is not a roller coaster ride. It is not a smooth process at all. Please remember. Okay, lot of unexpected twists will be there in your research. But if you follow the systematic process, you can able to overcome each and every twist and hurdle which come across you in your research journey. Then the primary task is to find a question in a research problem. Okay, in the research process, you have to find an important question which is an unresolved controversy. Okay, that means I am trying to say there should be a gap which you are planning to address in the research, because already some literature researches has been done on the topic, but still, even though numerous studies has been done, one small part nobody has focused. That is where actually your research progress happens. Okay, you have to identify that and you have to start sailing on that. Okay, that is how the journey progress. So research problem, please remember, it is a heart of a research project and it is the foundation of a research process. That's what I told. It is a number one step. Okay, you need to be really take care of it. And when we identify the research problem, how the research problem needs to be written in your thesis, how it needs to be written in the dissertation to the project work, it is very important to know. Okay, your research problem, whenever you write a research problem, you be clear with certain things. Okay, the research problem should clearly identify what is the precise problem you are trying to study. Okay, because many of the researchers we have a very vague problem. They themselves may not be aware what exactly needs to be done. No. Okay, this is a research problem. So far, nobody has done it. This is what I'm trying to explore it. Okay, that you have to define very clearly. But while exploring, you may face a lot of uncertainty. That is a different thing. But you should be very confident with the research process. Okay, then usually will usually identify the key variables in the statement of problem itself. We will tell, say for example, what is the impact of demonetization on the Indian economy. So demonetization of a currency note is an independent variable. Economy can be measured in the GDP, or it can be an industrial production, in the index of industrial production. It can be anything. Okay, so we have to tell very precisely, this is how I am going to find the impact of Indian economy due to demonetization. So when I consider an Indian economy, what actually an economy means, how I am going to measure the economic progress, what are the variables I am going to include, that needs to be defined very clearly in the statement of problem. Third one, give some information about the scope of the study. Okay, scope, you can't cover everything. So there is certain areas which try to focus on, that needs to be addressed. Then either it can be in the question form or a declarative. You can write the research problem can be in the question form or it can be a statement. No problem in that. Okay, the choice belongs to you. It may include inherent sub problems. As I told you, lot of small problems. But overall, please be remember, only if you have a quality input, you are going to get, you will get the quality output. If at all you have a quality. The quality output is your research findings. Okay, if you want your research input needs to be quality. Your research problem needs to be very well addressed. Okay, it needs to be taken care. It needs to be precise. You need to really worthwhile research problems needs to be considered. If you take some very vague problem, obviously your research outcome cannot be vague. Am I clear? Participants, are you with me? Yeah, fine. So finding a research question. So you may ask, sir, okay, I identified the research problem. One small area I identified as my research topic. But how to raise the research question? As I told you, the family, the effect of alcoholism on family is the research topic. The broader research problem was domestic violence. But I can't do the entire domestic violence, the research on entire domestic violence. So what I'm doing, I am choosing one part of a domestic violence, which is all about alcoholism. Okay, what is the impact of alcoholism on the family life? Okay, that is my research topic. So once I choose the research topic, how I can come out with the different research questions? Okay, that's what we discussed. what kind of impact. Say research questions are again the small steps, small categories in the problem topic, okay, the research topic. So it can be how the alcoholism affects the marital status, relationship, how the alcohol affects the children's life, how the alcohol affects the financial position. Okay, alcohol may have so many other implications also, but in my research topic, I am going to confine or I am going to limit myself in studying only these three aspects: how alcohol affects the marital life, how alcohol affects the children's life, how alcoholism affects the family's financial position. It may have so many other impacts also, but I am least bothered. Okay, so you have to define this is the scope which you are planning to cover. Okay, so how these are the research questions, right? So how you can get those research questions? Obviously, you have to follow the finer problem, okay, FI and ER, finer criteria for a good research question. You have to follow it. So your research question, it means your research question should be feasible. F stands for feasibility. Okay, it needs to be practically possible to solve it. Okay, the feasibility should be there. Then it should be interesting. It cannot be a very vague problem which nobody bothers about it. Okay, whether it happens or not happens, who bothers? Okay, it shouldn't be a problem of that nature. It is a very important. It should be and very interesting. Okay, the research question needs to be very interesting and very novel. Okay, some element of newness should be there definitely, and it should be ethical. Ethical in the sense, obviously, I'm talking about the legal aspect. It should be well within the legal aspect and also what to say, yeah, mainly within the confinement or within the legal framework. Okay. Then it should be relevant also. The research question needs to be very relevant to the research topic. So with these criteria, what else you need to have is, first of all, you need to have a curiosity. Research question will come to them in the minds of the researchers only if they are curious, they are interested to solve a problem, to identify them. Okay, what are the problems? Okay, first they should have the interest, the curiosity. Second one, going through the literature, you will find the information gaps. Okay, these are all the gaps still available in the literature. Nobody has done a research on this. Let me take it. Okay, so you will be taking that as a research question. The third one is about the controversy. Okay, some controversy topical. It can be or cannot. So you need to prove whether it is possible or not. Okay, so it should be a controversial topic. First itself, you should not know the solution. If I take this is what going to happen. If you know that very well in advance, then there is no need for research. That the topic should be a controversial. Okay, you know a lot of uncertainty is there. What will be the result? Okay, that anxiety should be there. Okay, in order to find that. So obviously, the statement of problem should have a controversial element. Okay, so that it gives a scope for us to do a research on it and come with a conclusion. Then avoid replication. As I told you, a lot of researches has been done in certain areas like customer satisfaction, customer perception, say GST, foreign direct investment. So there are so many direct topics are available where thousands of researches have already happened. That means you may not have a newness if you choose the topic. Your study cannot be unique and it cannot be differentiated from the existing study because the existing study already covered all the aspects. Okay, so something you should choose a topic or a research question in such a way there should be an element of newness, novelty should be there. Literature review definitely will guide you to choose the research question. Okay, you can also check with your experts. Okay, you can only check with an expert. Final decision you have to make whether to include that, whatever be the opinion of the experts or friends, you have to decide. Just because your research supervisor says, just because your friend says, just because somebody you know, you consider they are good in that knowledge, yes, says that, don't accept blankly. Okay, you have to assess it, evaluate it, then you accept. So why the research questions are very important in the research? Because once you know clearly this is my research question, you can read the relevant, highly appropriate, more precise literature. Otherwise, what will happen? You may choose a very broader area, say domestic violence. What happened? Thousands of papers are there. Okay, you can't study everything. But in domestic violence, if you confine yourself to the impact of alcohol on family life, the thousands of papers may become 20 or 30. That is where exactly you have to focus. Okay, so to choose to guide the literature search, the research question is important. Second one, to employ suitable research design. Okay, what kind of research design? How I am going to conduct my research? That depends upon, again, your research question. So conducting the research design or a study purely depends upon what type of research questions you have. For that also the research question is important. Then to decide what data to be collected and who are my respondents. Okay. Say when I say domestic violence, I can do this research either from the government servants, or it can be from the people who suffered because of it, or from the people who is really causing that problem. It can be the respondent, can be anybody, no clarity at all. But when I say that, clearly the impact of alcoholism on domestic violence, on the family life, impact of alcoholism on the family life. Now I know clearly my respondents are the family members, okay, who got affected by the alcoholism, who adversely affected by the alcoholism. So that narrows our respondents, okay, and we will get a very accurate or more appropriate response. Then guide you in your analysis and write-up. Obviously, research questions will help us to estimate the problem and forecast or estimate the relationship and then write the interpretation. For that also the research question is important. Then stop you from going unnecessary directions. Okay. So we should not deviate much. Okay. So this is all about the research problem. I think I have covered mostly on the research questions. Okay. Some examples I have given. If you wish, I will share this PowerPoint. You can have a look on it, so that definitely it can be a guiding force in choosing your topic. But please remember, whenever you choose a research question, the research question needs to be clear. You need to check whether it is feasible to do a research, etc. And don't unnecessarily choose a broader area. You have to confine, limit yourself, because expertise will come only if you focus on small area. If you focus on too much area, you can't allocate a time. As a result, you never become an expert in the large area. So you, what all you want, because being a researcher is all about having an expertise in that particular field. Okay. So we try to inculcate that aspect. So that is about today's program. Before winding up, just I want to say 3 important common mistakes generally what the respondents will do while choosing a research problem. One is the problem specification will be very too broad. Okay, that's what we discussed. Say, for example, I had given here the problems in Indian financial system. If you choose that as a thesis topic, problems in Indian financial system, there are so many problems, right? The operative problems, the legal problems, so many things are there. Okay, you can't address everything. So you need to be very precise. Second one, the research problem is not of a value or does not make sense. Okay. If you choose a problem which doesn't have, nobody is interested of it. Even if you come with the conclusion, that conclusion doesn't have any kind of a significant impact, okay, on the society, then it is a waste of time generally. Okay. Don't choose such kind of a research problem, and it shouldn't be so trivial, so easy research problem. No, like very customer satisfaction on usage of this particular ballpoint pen. No, that is very trivial, very trivial. Okay, the research needs to be little more adequate, acceptable. Okay, so don't choose a very easy topics. Okay, these are the 3 common mistakes generally I found when the students started doing a research. Okay. With this, I'll try to conclude. I'll conclude my presentation. Let me know if there is any question. Please, I'm welcome the people who are having a question. You can post your questions. I do agree this is just a small part of your research journey, but it is the most important. Okay, that's why we have chosen this as a first the webinar. Okay, this topic. Any questions, friends?
The questions from the participants will be collected and mailed to you, sir.
Yeah, that
So
will
that,
be fine.
the reply will be shared with them.
Yeah, that will be fine. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I think if there is any one or two questions, I am welcome you all to raise the question. Otherwise, yes, are told rightly, it will be collected and sent to me. I will try to address it at later part of time. And thank you for the organizers for giving me this opportunity to address to the bunch of researchers, students, the faculty who are listening to this particular webinar. So indeed, it is my privilege to be part of this webinar. So once again, I like to register my sincere thanks for the organizers. Thank you. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, sir, for providing your gracious presence to join us today. I request everyone to switch on the video for a while to take a picture. Thank you, everyone. I may now request Dr. S. Shiva, sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, SRM IST Vadapalani, to render the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. It's an honor to have been asked for propose a vote of thanks on this wonderful and informative occasion. According to Charles F. Kettering, the problem well stated is a problem of solved. From this quote, we can understand why problem formulation is much significant in the area of research. Apart from that, research is all about creating theory and knowledge to the existing literature. That is possible only when more and more readers reading and citing our work. So a good problem, a current problem, attract more readers to our research work. So that's where this webinar has a very much significant, because if the problem is clear, half of your work is done. I express my deep sense of gratitude to the distinguished resource person of today's webinar, Dr. T. Mohanasudaram, Associate Professor, Department of Management Studies, MS Ramaya Institute, Bangalore, for his spectacular and thought-provoking address. Sir has correctly pointed out the need of problem formulation identification. He also explained us in a very broad manner how to find a problem, how to make it as a perfect problem to do a research. Thank you so much, sir, for your address. I express my sincere thanks to Dr. K.R. Anantapatmanabhan, Dean, College of Science and Humanities, SRMIST, Vadapalani campus. He is the person behind the formation of the Sir C.V. Raman Research Colloquium. He is the one who constantly working on research and encouraging the research colloquium members to make ways to help the research community in CSH SRM Vadapalani campus and outside also in all possible ways. I would like to thank Dr. Venkatraghavan, Head of the Department, Commerce, for his wonderful welcome address. He is the one who is always support us, motivate us for the development of student community in CSH VDP. I would like to thank Dr. D. Venkatesan, convener, Sir C.V. Raman Research Colloquium, Assistant Professor in the Department of Commerce, for organizing this wonderful webinar. Without him, this would not have been possible. And also, he showing us one excellent researcher so that we can make use of him in the upcoming programs. Thank you so much, sir. I would also like to thank all the heads and faculty members in the College of Science and Humanities, SRM BDP, for their support. I personally thank my fellow members of Research Colloquium, Dr. Anita Ruth, Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science, Dr. Kesavan in the Department of Business Administration, Dr. Navin Raj in the Department of Business Administration, for their cooperation in the conduct of this webinar. And I also personally thank the student friends who helped us in the conduct of this webinar, Ms. Samyukta and Ms. Trisha from NABCOM F for their support. Last but not least, I thank all the research scholars and participants for making this event as a grand success. Thank you once again. Thank you so much all.
Thank you, sir. Discipline and united actions are the real source of strength for the nation. So I request
Thank you, all the participants. The feedback link is posted in the chat box. Give your valuable feedback. And through that, also through that you can download your e certificate. So thank you so much once again.